Dear friends, I hope you are all healthy and healthy. We will be discussing here a very familiar topic of population genetics. The name of topic is Hardy-Weinberg's principle. This is also known as Hardy-Weinberg's equilibrium. To explain the story, first of all, let me define you very important term used in the topic. This is gene frequency. Dear friends, gene frequency means percentage or proportion of gene or allele in total gene pool of a population. For example, let us assume this is the structure of specific population with individuals like this as shown in the diagram. Now here in this population, let's assume we have specific type of gene present, namely WW, and its percentage is 12, or in other words we can say its gene frequency is 12%. Let me draw specific type of individuals here having WW gene frequency like this. Now what does it indicate? It means among 100 individuals of population, 12 individuals have WW type of gene present. Accordingly, we have one more type of gene ZZ with frequency 15%. Now it indicates that among this population, 15 individuals have ZZ type of gene as a gene frequency. Now jumping back to our main topic, Hardy-Weinberg's principle, it was given by two prominent scientists, namely Harold Hardy, he was English mathematician, and one more is W. Weinberg, or we can say Wilhelm Weinberg. He was basically German physician. Let me show you here diagrammatic representation of both prominent scientists. Now, explaining the law in detailed manner, let us jump to the next page. Dear friends, this Hardy-Weinberg's principle or Hardy-Weinberg's equilibrium, it is a hypothetical concept. Practically, it is not possible for a given population. Now, what it states? According to this law, alleles and genotypic frequency in large population having random mating remains constant from generation to generation, but the condition is in absence of evolutionary influences. Now what does it mean? This explains if a population has specific type of gene present, the gene remain constant from generation to generation until evolution takes place in that large population. Now let me show you here some evolutionary influences, or we can say evolutionary pressures, which must be totally absent. For example, we have very significant evolutionary factor which affects the Hardy-Weinberg's principle. This is called mutation. You know, mutation is main cause for the evolution. So here mutation must be totally absent. Second one important factor is mating. As we know that law is applicable when there is a random type of mating. One more evolutionary factor is known as population size. It matters a lot. Small population is prone to evolution. Now there is one more factor, namely natural selection. Natural selection is main cause for evolution and failure of Hardy-Weinberg's principle. So natural selection must be totally absent. We have one more factor called genetic drift. Genetic drift must be absent. We can write very important evolutionary factor which influences the law. This is migration. That is in and outward movement of individuals from the population, called as immigration and immigration. It is also one of the leading factor that increases evolutionary pressures to the population. Now talking about next part of the story, that is conditions which favors Hardy-Weinberg's principle. There are several conditions. Let me underline some important points which favors Hardy-Weinberg's principle. Number one is there must be random mating in the population. Second point is sex ratio. It must be 1:1, means among 100 individuals there must be 50 males, 50 females, and population must be closed. Now what does it mean? There must be no migration at all. Then we have one more condition which favors the law, that is evolution must be absent. Accordingly, we can write very important point that population size must be very large. It is a significant character. Now we are going to discuss very important point of the topic. Suppose we have specific type of gene present in a population. This gene has different forms. For example, first one form is capital A, capital A. Now this is basically dominant homozygous form of gene. This gene is present with gene frequency 36%. Accordingly, we can write one more type of combination, small a. It will be homozygous recessive form of the gene present in the population with gene frequency 16%. We have one more case of this gene. For example, sometimes gene may be present in the form of capital A, small a. It is called a heterozygous form. Suppose its frequency is 48% in population. Now applying the Hardy and Weinberg's principle here, they both used symbols to denote dominant and recessive gene. Like for homozygous dominant gene, they use symbols P plus P, we can write P2. Accordingly, for homozygous recessive gene, small a, they used symbols Q plus Q, we can write Q2. Accordingly, for heterozygous condition of gene, they use symbols like P and Q. Now moving to the last part of the story, that is mathematical expression of Hardy-Weinberg's principle. It is very important part of the story. As we know that law status, the gene either in homozygous recessive or in homozygous dominant condition remain constant from generation to generation. Suppose let us consider a specific gene AA dominant, small a recessive. Its value will be 1, that is constant from generation to generation. Now applying the symbols that we have discussed in the previous page, that is PP for dominant, QQ for recessive gene, its value will be 1. Here we can write this equation in another fashion, like P square plus Q square equivalent to 1. It will give rise an equation like P square plus Q square plus 2PQ. Here P square indicates dominant gene, Q square recessive gene, 2PQ indicates heterozygous condition of gene. The value of all genes remain constant from generation to generation. Now we have very important point to discuss. For gene to calculate its frequency in a population, we have formula P square plus Q square equivalent to 1, because gene works in pairs. Accordingly, for allele, we can calculate frequency by P plus Q equivalent to 1 like this formula. I hope you got the concept beautifully. Now we have very important problem here. Calculate frequency of dominant allele. Dear friends, we have to calculate frequency of dominant allele when the frequency of recessive allele is 0.8%. Now it is very easy. We can use second formula P plus Q equivalent to 1. So we can write P as a dominant allele plus 0.8, the frequency of recessive allele is equivalent to 1. Now it will give rise next equation like this, P equivalent to 1 minus 0.8, and at last we will get gene frequency of dominant allele, that is P will be equivalent to 0.2%. Dear friends, it was all about Hardy-Weinberg's principle. If you find this video valuable, kindly share. Never forget to subscribe. Thanks. Have a nice day. May Almighty bless you.